because it's important that people understand this, that basically I was a normal person.
Nothing haunts me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Naya Mystery, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the differences between a psychopath and a sociopath. So this topic is like super interesting. It's been suggested to me by you in the comments numerous times, and it's something that is being debated a lot in pop culture. You know, psychopath and sociopath aren't actually medical terms. Antisocial personality disorder is the disorder that psychopaths and sociopaths are diagnosed with. But in pop culture, we do throw around these terms a lot. So I wanted to sort of like think about the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. And the general consensus, of course, is that psychopaths are born, sociopaths are made. But there are actually more differences. And I found them on this article on verywellmind.com. It's a psychology-related website. And I just found it really interesting. I'll link it below for you guys. So I decided that I would just make a video sharing the differences with you, and for the subjects I used Ted Bundy and the Iceman Richard Kuklinski. You can look up about both of them if you want. I think they're pretty well known, and I thought that they were good fits for these traits. So before I talk about the traits of a sociopath, I want to play a few clips of the subject Richard Kuklinski, just so you can familiarise yourselves with him, so it'll make more sense what I talk about after.
How many people have you killed?
Oh, an approximate guess. Approximate, we'll go with more than 100.
His father was a brakeman for the railroad, and his mother worked in a meatpacking plant.
I didn't like my father, as he would beat me just because he felt like it, to get my attention, I guess. He would think nothing of coming in and smacking you, basically. He'd just come in and give you a whipping for no reason whatsoever. And my mother was cancer. She would destroy everybody. She thought I took too long to do something. She didn't hesitate to give me a swat here and there. And she didn't just use her hand. She would hit me with a broomstick or something like that. It hurt. As a matter of fact, she broke the broom on me more than once.
When his father abandoned the family, Richard, a skinny, timid young teenager, was left to fend for himself. He was an easy target for street gangs, but by the time he was 16, things began to change.
When I was a young man, I found out that if you hurt somebody, they'll leave you alone. I didn't have the capability of getting a better paying job. Was I going to push a yarn truck the rest of my life? Make menial amount of money?
He went to work at a film lab, where he began to pirate pornographic films and sell them to outside sources connected to the Gambino crime family. This connection led to other criminal activities, and it wasn't long before he went from being a small-time hood to a big-time killer.
I would like to be different than what I am. I would have liked to have been different than what I was, yes. It would be better. It would have been better for me. I would have liked to have had a better outlook on life. But I can't change yesterday. I've never felt sorry for anything I've done other than hurting my family. The only thing I feel sorry for I'm not looking for forgiveness, and I'm not repenting. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I do want my family to forgive me. Oh boy. I can make this one. Oh, shit. This would never be me. This would not be me. I feel for my family. You see the Iceman cry. Not very macho. But I've heard people that mean everything to me. But the only people that mean anything to me.
So as you can see from the clips of Richard Kuklinski is that he behaved in very hot-headed and impulsive ways, and there's arguments to be made that he was made that way. Well, he seems to think so anyway, and that he quotes he would have rather had a better outlook in life, but his experiences have made him into a sociopath. Another interesting thing is that it's obvious that he can form emotional attachments. It's difficult. He doesn't care about everyone, and he had no empathy for his victims, but he had a lot of empathy for his family. And of course, he was prone to fits of anger and rage, which is another trait that is specific more to sociopaths. And another thing is that he recognized what he was doing was wrong, but he rationalized his behavior. Sociopaths also have trouble maintaining a regular work and family life. Like he said, he couldn't really find a proper job, so he got involved in criminal activity. The thing about sociopaths is that it's much more clear that they're dangerous than psychopaths, and that's what makes psychopaths much, I guess, more interesting to a lot of people. The argument is that they have a neurological difference in their brain. If we look now, and I'm going to play a few clips of Ted Bundy, just watch the differences in the way he conducts himself to Richard. It's much more clear Richard is dangerous, which actually makes Ted Bundy more dangerous because it's not clear that he's dangerous. So while a sociopath will make it clear that they do not care about how other people feel, a psychopath will pretend to care. And just watch these clips of Ted Bundy.
Like coming out of some kind of horrible trance or dream. I can only liken it to after, I don't want to over-dramatize it, but to have been possessed by something so awful and so alien, and then the next morning wake up from it, remember what happened, and realize that basically, in the eyes of the law, certainly in the eyes of God, you're responsible. To wake up in the morning and realize what I had done, and with a clear mind and all my essential moral and ethical feelings intact at that moment, absolutely horrified that I was capable of doing something like that.
You really hadn't known that before?
There is just absolutely no way to describe.
So, like I said, Ted Bundy puts on this great act of, it's terrible what I'd done and I just couldn't believe it. It was just a trance and it's not my fault. And this is what makes psychopaths much more dangerous than their sociopathic cousins. Is that a sociopath like Richard Kuklinski could be like, I don't care what I did, but it's because of what happened to me once I was younger. Ted Bundy's like, he does not take accountability for what he done. And in that way, he's got no remorse for what he done because it wasn't his fault. And this is what we see a lot with psychopaths. And this is the mask. I've talked about this on my channel a lot. Ted Bundy puts on his psychopathic mask. Sociopaths don't have this mask. So I'm going to play a few more clips about Ted and see the differences in how Richard had a very troubled past, while Ted seemed to have an ideal upbringing.
You consider to have been a healthy home.
Absolutely.
You were not physically abused. You were not sexually abused. You were not emotionally abused.
No, no way. And that's part of the tragedy of this whole situation, is because I grew up in a wonderful home with two dedicated and loving parents, one of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church, 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home. I'm not saying this was Leave It to Beaver.
It wasn't a perfect home.
No, I don't know that such a home exists, but it was a fine, solid Christian home, and nobody, I hope no one will try to take the easy way out and to try to blame or otherwise accuse my family of contributing to this, because I know, and I'm trying to tell you as honestly as I know how, what happened, and I think this is a message I want to get across.
We also see some evidence that Ted Bundy was able to maintain a normal sort of image. He flew under the radar more, which is like what you find with psychopaths with their mask and everything. It's difficult to tell that these people are dangerous. They are able to act like normal people normally. The difference between them and other normal people is that they just don't care about how people feel. They have no empathy and feel no remorse for the things they do. So yeah, we can see Ted Bundy talking about how normal he is in this clip and how no one would have expected what was going on, which is the difference between him and someone like Richard, is that, you know, it was very clear what he was doing. With Ted, he wasn't involved in any sort of crime syndicate or anything. He just carried out these heinous acts in private.
Because it's important people understand this, that basically I was a normal person. I wasn't some guy hanging out at bars or a bum, or I wasn't a pervert in the sense that, you know, people look at somebody and say, I know there's something wrong with him, and just tell. I mean, I was essentially a normal person. I had good friends. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent and very destructive segment of it that I kept very secret and very close to myself and didn't let anybody know about it. And part of the shock and horror for my dear friends and family years ago when I was first arrested was that there was no clue. They looked at me and they looked at the all-American boy, and I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I'm going to be quite candid with you. I was okay. I was.
So as you can see, there's obviously some interesting differences between the likes of Ted Bundy and the Iceman, Richard Kuklinski. I can't diagnose these people, but it's just what I picked up from watching documentaries about them and reading various things about the difference between sociopaths and psychopaths. But I want to talk about the commonalities between them, because there are things that both this type of person shares in terms of traits. And they can be broken down to 3 different types, which are self-functioning characteristics, interpersonal characteristics, and behavioural characteristics. So in terms of self-functioning characteristics, they are these characteristics that reflect what a person is like and how that person views his or her actions or goals. So to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, you must exhibit all of the following characteristics: attaining self-esteem from power, personal gain or pleasure, egocentricity or self-centeredness, or setting goals based on personal gratification with little regard to law or ethics. And in terms of interpersonal characteristics, you must exhibit these traits also to be diagnosed with APD, which is a lack of empathy for other people's suffering or hurt, or when confronted with the hurt or anger of people that you've manipulated, you simply don't care. Also, the inability to have truly mutually emotionally intimate relationships because of the instinct to control, coerce or deceive. Then in terms of behavioural characteristics, and there are quite a few, so I'm only going to name some. And I'm going to start with that it is not uncommon for someone with antisocial personality disorder to be in repeated fights or assault. They frequently lie to gain social entry or advantage, such as, for example, proclaiming that you're a decorated war hero when you've never even been to war. They make decisions on the spur of the moment with little regard to consequence. And there's a persistent anger or irritability even over small things and spiteful behaviour. Another interesting one is the emotional manipulation of others, which I've talked about a lot on my channel. And a psychopath or a sociopath can pretend to be interested in someone just to achieve a goal. And of course, there's usual risk-taking, becoming easily bored, and an ability to ignore personal boundaries. So those are some of the few things that they have in common. And like I discussed with the differences, I definitely do think there's a difference, in my opinion, between these types of criminals. But there are a lot of overlap, and I understand why there's only one diagnosis for the two. It's more sort of a cause and effect argument. You know, the argument is in what makes someone a sociopath or a psychopath. If you ask me, I think that, you know, the research is just too experimental right now, but there is definitely grounds to say that psychopaths are made while sociopaths are made while psychopaths are born. So that pretty much wraps up all I want to discuss in this video. I hope you liked it. It's just me sharing my thoughts. Take from it what you will and make your own opinions and do your own research. And I hope you liked this video. And if you did, like and subscribe, and there'll be more in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye.